Hey, okay, everybody, what's happening? Jay here. This is SmartHelping.com, live financial modeling. I'm back after a couple weeks. I spent a week with my with some family. I spent a week after that in some warmer parts of the world, and now I'm back in cold Ohio. And I'm excited to be back to getting into the stream. It's been a bit, so uh, that's great. Today we're going to do a financial model for a cruise ship, and it turns out that's actually pretty similar to an assisted living facility. Now, the revenue assumptions are going to be quite different, but the development acquisition assumptions are really good that fit the staffing costs, other costs, capex, definitely cap table, option for investor money, debt schedule, all that stuff. The financial statements, everything lines up pretty good. The main thing we're just going to have to change is how the revenue is working. So we'll start with that today on the stream. We'll also do some research because there's a bunch of different revenue streams of a cruise ship, so we're going to look into all that. Before we get into it, remember to check out smarthelping.com for all the startup financial models, templates, and tools built in Excel and Google Sheets. The model we're doing with this cruise ship is going to be put in the startups category. It'll be in here once it's finished. I'll probably just charge $45 for that for this template when it's finished. And remember to check out more. You can buy all the templates I've ever built for $9.99. Tons of value here for anybody in the finance industry. Let's do our sound check here. Get our link to send out to Twitter. Get our link to send out to Twitter. Okay, everything sounds good. Live financial modeling, cruise ships. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to start doing some research here. So actually, before I do that, let's change some things here. So, and this could be a cruise ship, like a big multi, 50, $100 million excursion, or it could be a smaller, say a boating tour business or something. The logic is going to work for either one. It's just like for a boat tour, or like maybe even like a yacht tour, that'd be a little bit higher end, but the assumptions will flow easily, and they're flexible enough to account for a giant, you know, $100 million cruise, or maybe a $12 million yacht, or maybe a $500,000 boat, or smaller. So that's interesting. We'll put cruise ship LLC. Just changing some text here that was specific. So month rooms open. This is going to say month cruise launches, and that'll just be relevant for when the revenue begins to go and when the depreciation starts on all the construction costs. Uh, there's a development construction loan logic here. So you can do option of interest only loan on any of these costs. So this is really interesting. This logic built here allows you to populate, I think, seven. Let's see, one, two, three, four, five, or six. Let me double check. One, two, three, four, five. So six areas, and these could have to do with whatever your initial costs are going to be for uh, constructing the ship or buying the ship if it's a purchase, and you could define if each item is going to be subject to being financed or not, and if so, the percentage financed. Everything else is going to flow to an equity investment requirement, and these costs can happen over time. Just make sure when you put the month that the cruise launches, um, it should be in relation to when you're done constructing the ship. But that just goes towards just you're building a model based on what's actually happening. So you need to go through every aspect and start from zero out all the assumptions in yellow and start from scratch with your own numbers. And then this flows over. So this flows over to an interest-only loan based on all that logic I just went over. It tells you how much you're going to draw. Now, it doesn't have to be a construction loan. If it just all happens in 1 month, or there is no construction loan and it just goes to a straight P&I, that's fine too. You could just enter a 1 here, and then everything, the balance here flows over to a regular P&I loan in that period, and you would just put all your costs in whatever month this is, whatever month you're gonna take out the loan. And that money will all get, on the cash flow statement, you'll see all these, like here's the borrowing of that, here's CapEx, here's equity, investments, here's a net change in cash flow. And you can see it's zero, so that's basically saying after all these activities, all your CapEx and construction, and then all your financing, you're basically covering just enough to get off the ground. Balance sheet will show zero cash position until you start making money. So all this is great. This all works fine. This is good. Um, it's as flexible as possible. And I really like the way this was set up for the assisted living model. I also did this kind of setup for the self-storage. Not the self-storage, for the hotel acquisition, and I believe one other type. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me see here. See. Um, what did we put that in? Assisted living, hotel. Oh, the mixed use. Yeah, so those all use this nice structure, very flexible to account for initial construction costs or acquisition, some percentage of that being financed, and then you've got the debt schedule here that's very flexible. Let's put this back to 7, and you've got option for interest only, accrual, or not. If you don't accrue, then you're going to be making these payments as soon as you start drawing on the debt. If it's accrued interest, then that rolls into the P&I, and then you start with the P&I payment. And then you actually have an option for a refi as well at some month in the future. And if so, then that refi happens. You get possibly some cash out for investors or what have you, and you don't have to have a refi. You can just hit no, and the original P&I loan just continues on. So this is great logic, and debt logics are really hard to build correctly. That is very flexible. This is already all built here. Okay, so this is great. We also got regular startup cost, terminal value. I'm just kind of going through and making sure all the text and everything is updated so that it's for a cruise ship. Other costs, we have just fixed operating costs, start month, monthly cost. And again, if the start month is like not in the first year, that's fine. You could see here, if it's in the second year, the starting monthly cost still populates this monthly cost in year 2, and then you got this annual expense increase that applies accordingly. So that logic's great. Staffing's good. This is actually perfect. I don't need to change anything here. You've got all these different potential positions, the start month, the total count, starting monthly salary, payrolls, taxes, benefits. You've got more staffing positions here, so we've got plenty of staffing position types, and they'll be paid. You also got outsourced costs that are not subject to payroll tax and benefits, and you can put in those monthly fees here. So like a cruise ship could have, guests, singers, all kinds of different entertainment that they got to pay for. So that's accounted for here, and then that flows all to the OPEX. So that is not going to have to be changed. This is all fine for a cruise ship. So if your OPEX, your specific staffing, and then the goal is you got to, now the revenue, which this is essentially all going to be redone. So I don't think, yeah, this is all. So we're clearing all this out, and yeah, let's unfreeze these. This is all going to be redone. Let me just delete everything here. And deleting that also helps me know, because anything that references will now have an error in the model, so I know what needs to be updated with the new assumptions. So we're going to just put this up here, and we'll have to rebuild all this. That's what we'll start on today. Right. But yeah, all the other stuff around this is perfect. Like the costs, the OpEx, CapEx, terminal value. If you're going to exit, it's based on a trailing 12-month EBITDA, which I think is a fine valuation method if you're going to include this. Now the model goes for 10 years already, which is fine. And you could change the launch year to whatever year, and then change the exit month accordingly. Like if I put this to 2024, now I can change this. It'll go all the way to December 2033 if that's where I want. I'm going to put this back to 2023 though. And usually a cruise ship is going to go for longer than 10 years. But what this does is allow you to say, well, here's what it takes to get started. Here's what a stabilized operating profit looks like over time based on all these different assumptions. And then at the end of the 10th year, you can say, well, the value of the business, we're going to do it on a trailing 12-month EBITDA, and you can put that multiple in here, and that'll give you an exit value. Now there's errors in the model here because I deleted the revenue assumption stuff because we got to redo all that. So that's fine for now. The reason why I did want to keep this as well is because we've got all kinds of logic with the taxes and depreciation. I didn't want to rebuild all that if I didn't have to, and this literally fits perfectly with exactly how it needs to work. And you can see all the different development and acquisition costs have their own useful life here. Now this is obviously land. I mean, so some cruise ships might purchase land and develop that as well. So I think this is fine to keep here. And then you've got 320. I think there's 20 slots in each section. Yeah. So you've got 320 slot sections for these. You've got development, and then any acquisition. And these, you can change the titles of these depending on what you're doing. Total cost, useful life, and this will show the depreciation. Now, this allows you to manually define the proceeds from this. And the reason why is because if you go to sell the cruise ship business, you've got some value relative to the after you account for all the depreciation of this. There's going to be some gain on these assets. So we're specifically defining what the proceeds were for this. And then separately, the EBITDA multiple is kind of like what you're selling the business for, like the essentially the rights, the IP, the brand, all that stuff, which it will go to extraordinary income. It's different than that. So that number's there, and that's fine. That works fine. Okay, do we need anything else adjusted on the text for now? I don't think so. I will need to update this once I'm finished. This is all great logic built. Okay. All right, so let's get into the money making side of this. Obviously, the biggest money maker is going to be, your fees that people pay for, going on the cruise. But let's just get a quick look here. Should I even have this up? Okay, let's get a quick look here. So, how does a cruise ship make money? Let's just start with that. Economics of a cruise ship, perfect. Just get a high level look. If you ever seen one in action, you'll invest. Yeah, these ships are huge. 28.5 million passengers, bulk of them from America, spent more than $46 billion on cruises. Yeah, it's big business here. I just want to see. Okay, so cruise companies circumvent U.S. taxes and regulations. Well, in the model, you'll be able to type in based on your after revenue, operating expenses, interest, depreciation, you'll have some taxable income. Now, if your tax rates are different, well, I mean, you could plug in your regular tax rate here and then any capital gains tax rate here. So depending on however your accountants are structuring things, that'll depend on how much you think the taxes will be. But that's not a huge, we're not really, we're more focused on operations and logic for that. Okay, cruise ticket sales and onboard purchases. Yes, definitely. So ticket sales is the main one we're going to focus on first. And then you've got onboard purchases, so alcohol, casino gambling, spa, art, sure. I know there's like jewelry, all kinds of stuff. Um, so say 62% of revenues on average calculated with tickets, and then 38% on the remaining. Now, what you would have to do in this model is try to figure out, okay, on your cruise, what are all your different cost centers, and what's their staffing like? What's their average monthly salary for the staffing type? And I believe there's enough here. See, we've got 38 types. Remember, these are types, and then you could do the count of each staff type here. So this could be hundreds of crew members. Uh, and then you've got other salaried items here, and then you've got other items outsourced here that are not subject to payroll tax and benefits. So plenty of options. But what you have to do is define, okay, here's what it takes to run the food service. Here's what it takes to run the spa. Here's what it takes to run the entertainment or whatever you're going to have. And then revenue is going to, that your revenue for these ancillary items should match up with what the cost is here. Now, these are just going to be labor costs entered on this item. The other operating costs here you might fit, but then we're going to have to add logic for any variable costs. For example, if you're doing uh, jewelry sales, you're going to have to do margins and figure out. I'm just deleting these, so there's okay. Figure out what your average cost is, what your margins are on that, and we might have to do that for a couple different ancillary streams. Now this has, one. This is just listing one, two, three, four, five ancillary income items. I think we can hit the main ones and do logic for that, and then we could have maybe another five of just like expected revenues from other things, and just do some basic logic for that. Like maybe expected unit sales, cost of goods sold, um, and we can multiply that out by the times number of times the cruise goes out per year or something like that. Yep, high fixed cost business. Cruise ship relies on getting as many passengers as possible on the ship. The major cruise lines will often fill each ship to 105 to 110% capacity, then upsell its captive consumers on additional services. They get their hands in people's pocket. Yeah. Fuel is going to be a big one, big fixed cost. Marketing, payroll. 17% net margins, that's pretty high. Yep, that's a lot higher than like a hotel. Wow. So on average, passenger will spend 51 a day. Okay, so here's where we get down into the unit economics of this. And what we need to see is, and I think the best way to do this is we have to define, um, let's see, what's the best way? We definitely need to account for how much distance is being traveled, because that's going to give you a variable for your or for your fuel. We need to tie that into revenue too. So I'm just thinking about this here. Let's see. How do we want to do this? So we could have a monthly schedule, a 120-month schedule. That might be the best way. So we have month number going down because there's going to be 120. So up to 120 months worth of forecasting. And let's freeze this. Actually, let's just do a double. So you have the month number, and then each month, let's widen these out. You can define, and this is important too to make it easier to line up with when you're done construction. So you've got each month number of excursions, I think you call it. So this is like picking people up, going to take them around, and then dropping them back off. So how many of those are you doing per month? So we could get down to that granularity, and we'll see what this looks like. So let's say we do. Let's say we did. We start in month 8, and we can actually tie months to this as well, just with the index formula that automatically will update as the launch year changes. So we can just pull this. If C5 matches the lookup array here. Okay. And all I have to do is lock this and drag it down, and that gives you every month the actual timing of it. Month, and you can put year here as well. And well, we could just might as well put this in here, year. And then year number, which is just round up. You go D5 divided by 12. Okay, so you got some perspective on what the timing of things. So let's say we start in month 8, we do kick it off with 1, and then maybe in September we do 2, 1, 2, and then so you can plan this out over the calendar years based on like how busy you think you are and whatever you're gonna do. Maybe December you do 3, something like that. Maybe an average of just 2 over time, but these can change. Um, it's just the high level is okay. I'm gonna build a ship or buy a ship, and then I'm gonna go on cruises or take people on these cruises. So how many cruises are you doing in a given month? And then what we'll have to put on here is average um, average tickets sold. Let's say, let me just get a rough number here. Average Let's just do Royal Caribbean. Average Royal Caribbean passenger count. Ownership. Okay, so in the 3 to 6,000. So let's just say 5,000. So you're selling on average 5,000 tickets. Now I'm trying to figure out, do we want to do a breakdown of the percentage of tickets at different pricing levels? Or do we just do an average of a weighted average ticket price? Now, either way can get you to an accurate forecasted number, but it might be easier for people to say, well, X percent are this, Y percent are that. So let's say you're selling 5,000 tickets, percentage tickets sold by type, because there's different room types, what have you. And this is one, let's just do maybe 5. And that at least gives you some category breakdown. So ticket price 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we just want to define here the percentage. So let's say it's 20% at each type. So 5,000, that, then you define the price, average ticket price per type. And again, these might be just, all these are one price, or this could include an average of all the tickets for the price of the weighted average price of rooms on deck 1, and etc. Now, I think 5 is probably enough to get you a decent forecast. You know what? Let's do 10. Let's just overkill it because it's easier to not use sections than have to add more. And this is all adjustable on each month. Let's say, now since we're going to manually define when this happens, we don't really need this for revenue, but this still needs to be entered so we know when to start the depreciation. Because that should start when construction costs are done and you start actually selling, using what you've built or bought. All right. So here, August 2023 is our start month. This matches with this already. So tickets sold by type. So this is total sold. This is by type. We want to define the price. And we're actually, let's wrap this text and make this smaller so we can see it better. Okay, 5, 6. Just make sure all these are okay. There's 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. All right, so you define your average price per ticket. Now, which format do I like with this one? I believe, let me try that. So say average price ticket $8.50. And then does this, okay, perfect. And then if we have decimals, no decimals. Okay, so just round numbers. Let's say average price is $8.50 a ticket. Now this could be different. Let's say, make this a little bit wider too. So we need to do up to like, say 10,000, 5 decimals. Okay, that fits. Perfect. So let's say ticket price 1 is more expensive, so less people do it. And this one's cheaper, more people do that. Just so we have a little granularity, and let's say we need a divider in here. So here, I like Google Sheets' border control better with how you define the borders on the cells, but this is fine. So here I have to just do a line style thick, right border. Now that's there. Now I have to adjust it back to where it was. All right, so far we have the excursions per month expected, the average tickets sold on each excursion, and this is for each month, the percentage of tickets sold at up to 10 different ticket prices. This should always add up to 100%. And then you have the average price. So here, let's say these are maybe 1,200 a person, and these are maybe 650 a person. These are just 850. You have the percentage of tickets sold at each type. And this is going to be your main revenue driver that you're using. You're going to look at, okay, here's how much I could make from passengers, and here's how many times I'm going to do an excursion in each month. And then here's what it cost each month to staff the ship. Here's other costs. Now, the variable costs we want to tie to revenue are definitely gas. And before we get into that, copy. Why is this only going out 5? Okay, and this is going to be count of passengers per ticket type. So we've got all this passenger count or ticket count. Simply define the or multiply the percentage times this, and this can lock. So we do there. And we don't really need titles for that, so we just put this down. Or maybe we just bold it, put it in the middle. Okay, so let me update one thing here. Okay, good, so that's fine. And then what if, okay, it works for 5 digits, which should be plenty. All right, so we're cooking here. Can I zoom in to 90? Yeah, that's doable. So mainly you're gonna focus on, all right, what's my excursion count over time? How many tickets am I selling? What's the average price? And we'll do the calculations over on the monthly detail for revenue. So this is ticket revenues, completely its own thing. We're gonna actually call this ticket revenue. Now also on here with number of excursions, we want to identify total travel distance in whatever unit. You might do it probably nautical miles. Can actually wrap the text of these as well. And let's say, I don't know, 600. Say on average, the length of the distance on average is 600 nautical miles per trip. So you'd multiply that by the trip count to get the total distance traveled. Now you want to, where do we want to define this? So we got total distance traveled. That's going to flow over to that's going to be a cost driver. But we can put the total distance traveled up in the top of the monthly detail and then reference that below it in a cost item. We'll have to define, let's see, so how do we convert that? So if we know we traveled, let's say 600 miles, we can do, what do we do? Fuel efficiency. What's the calculation here? Average nautical miles per gallon of gas, or whatever unit it is. And let's say we can define this over time. Now what we'll say is on average, 1 gallon of gas, you're getting, I don't know, 15 nautical miles. And the fuel efficiency, I don't know how it changes over time with the cruise ship, but we'll allow for that option. We'll also allow for this to have decimals. Okay. And then we'll do average price per gallon of gas. And it might be diesel or what have you, that's fine. The point is we're defining, here's how many miles or nautical miles we're traveling. Here's our efficiency. Here's the cost per gallon of gas. So I'll do the calculation elsewhere, but I'll show you how it's going to work. Want a decimal here. Okay, so let's say $3.50 per gallon on average, and I could adjust that over time. Now, ticket prices, it's over a 10-year period. I don't know. We're not adjusting the price over time here, but you could, since we have 10 prices, you could over time maybe push the percentages into items that are a little bit higher priced and saying that that represents basically inflation. Or you could just, on this, you could say there's no increase in salaries, no increase in outsourcing costs, and no increase here in these expenses, and no increase on in ticket prices. So you hold everything else, everything equal, and that's fine too. Okay. I believe. Now, I mean, I could, let's get the base logic here for revenue done, and then we'll see if it makes sense to do like a average percent increase in ticket prices over time. Okay, so this, um, okay, so if I know, let's say we're getting 15 miles to the gallon. On average, in month one, we travel 600 nautical miles. So if you divide 600 by your gallon, you're doing, you're paying for, so 40 gallons gets you 600 nautical miles. Now a ship, I'm curious about this. Average um, gas efficiency of a cruise ship. Okay, so let's see. On average, a large cruise ship can use up to 250 tons of fuel per day, which is around 80,000 gallons. Holy crap. Claims a normal cruise ship can use around 140 to 250 tons of fuel each day, consuming 30 to 50 gallons per mile traveled. Okay, so their fuel efficiency is, if it's, let's say it's 50 gallons per mile. So the average miles you get per gallon in that case was at point oh 0.02. Let me see, does that make sense? So if you did 1 divided by this, 50. Yep, so if I get 0.02 miles with 1 gallon, then to get a full mile, I would need 30,000 gallons. Oh wait, oh yeah, that's off. Let's try zero point 0.2. No, something's wrong. Lots of conversions here, but this is definitely important to know for the model. So average miles per gallon of gas. So if I get half of a mile per gallon, 1 mile would be 2. But here it's saying 30 to 50 gallons per mile. Let's go here. Okay, 0.004 miles per gallon. If it's about 30% means the boat is burning roughly 1.84 gallons of fuel per second, or 6,640 gallons per hour. 23 knots. Okay, so 0.004 is the MPG. Average MPG. So if this is 0.004, they go another decimal out. And let's just go another one more, just for good measure. If that's my miles per gallon, and if I travel 10 miles, then it takes 2,500 gallons. And if that price is this, it's $8,000 to travel 10 miles. Now let's see if this matches with this. So if this is 004, you got 80,000 gallons. You're doing, let's say, 40 divided by 80,000. 0005. Now hold on a second. 250 tons of fuel per day, 80,000 gallons. How many miles is that? 30 to 50 miles. So let's say it's 40 miles. So you can travel 40 miles on, well, if 80,000 gallons is 250 tons, How much is 150 tons? So 80,000 divided by 250 is 320. Now let's multiply that by 145. So 46,000 gallons to go 40 miles. 46,000 to go, or 40 gallons. 46,000 gallons to go 40 miles. So you divide 40 by 46,000. That's a small number. 2 million gallons of fuel. Holy cow. Two 4-story high 16-cylinder engines. Full power, they burn 1,379 gallons of fuel per hour. Okay. Okay, so 1,377 gallons per hour. If gas is $3.50, that's 4,800 times 24 is $115,000 a day. Okay. Now, what are we doing in our numbers here? Just got to make sure the logic makes sense. So, let's say this is over 10 days. So you're going 60 miles a day. If your fuel efficiency is 0.004, do miles divided by that is 15,000 gallons. $52,000 a day. Oh man, why is this not super clear? I'm trying to get confirmation on this miles per gallon here of 004. Let me try another source, unless this has anything. MPG of a cruise ship. Okay, 004, 004. Well, here, okay, so 50 feet, you divide that by 51. How many feet in a mile? It's like 5,000 something. I don't know exactly. So that's 0.009. So 1 gallon would get you 0.009 miles. Look at this. This is saying 0.023. It depends, I think. Okay, this is a big long thing about it. It looks like between 0.002 and 0.008. Okay, 0.023. Let's say this is going to get 0.004. So if you get that many miles per gallon and you're going 600 miles for the month, how many gallons of gas do you need? All right, so you divide this by this, right? So you need 150,000 gallons. So if I have 150,000 gallons Each gallon is going to be 0.004 miles for a total of 600 miles. Okay, so that makes sense. And then you just multiply this by fuel cost, which maybe the cruise ship gets a discount. I don't know. $525,000 for the 600-mile trip. Okay, so this is the main number. We just need to make sure we're doing the logic right on this. So what I can do is take, here's your total miles traveled in a month, which is this number times this number. We do some math with that and this, multiply by this to get the total fuel cost. So that's completely variable cost. You don't have to try to estimate that in like in this monthly cost section or anywhere else. It's just going to be automatic based on the miles traveled and the gas price in the miles per gallon. Okay, so that's fine. Other variable costs. Let's think about food. And this is going to be tough. For food, let's think. Let's just do a bunch of items here. It's a huge one. Food's usually free. They do have some upsells, but let's just talk about mainly the free dining that's provided. So all the staff and everything can be accounted for, but the food costs, food type 1, you're going to have to identify this amount. What does it cost per trip? And you can identify those, and it'll be multiplied by the number of trips taken in the month times whatever year it is. Well, not times this number, which is going to be dependent on the year. And there. So the calculation is not just looking at this, it is going to multiply this number. So let's say food type 1 is, let's say, steak. Steak. In year 1, on average, for a given excursion, so you might do some more, some less, depending on how long the cruises are, but on average, if you look at the entire year, how much are you spending on steak per excursion? Food cost per excursion. And in year 1, we're saying, okay, we spend, let's say, $50,000 on steak. And that's going to be included in the ticket price. There's no extra revenue coming in, but this is just included in when people pay here. And we just multiply excursions in the month times steak cost, depending on what year it is. And that's all that is. So I believe, do we need to get any more granular than this with the food costs? We've got a bunch of different types here, 47 different types of food. What it costs you to buy this food to last on average for the average excursion. So let's say you do, some excursions are 4 days, some are 8, and you do, the calculation, let's say 4 and 8, right? So, and you do over the course of a year, 20 of these and 10 of these. So if you do 20 4-day cruises and 10 8-day cruises, on average, we want to know the average days a cruise lasts, so we can calculate this number here. You would do some product of 4 and 8 of 20 and 10, and we want to divide get that by this. So on average, the average cruise lasts 5 days. Now, if you look at how that actually is working, you do, okay, 20 4-day cruises. So 20 times 4 is 80, plus 10 8-day cruises. That's 160. So you're traveling for a total of 160 days in the year. And we want to multiply that 160 days or divide that by the total of 160 days divided by, let's see, not 12, by 30. That gives you the 5.33, but is that right? Does that make sense? Sorry, my mind is getting back into the swing of doing logic here, so bear with me. Let's see, did we do this right? So on average, well, the easy way to calculate this is um, how many excursions were there? 12. There were 12 excursions, and each one averages 5 days. That equals 64. So I think we used the wrong. So you would do D as your divisor. Yeah, because right, 13. Because no. Hold on. Let's label this. I might have to put this in the model, so you don't have to do this manually, but let's just do this. So this is um, cruise length in days, quantity, and I want to know what is the average cruise length in days. If I do 20 of these and 10 of these, now my math says the average cruise length is 5.3 days. And does that make sense? Is the question. Let's see, what if we used more extreme numbers? Let's do one of this in 20 of these. This appears to be right. 7.8. 7.8 days. So because you got 20 of 8 and you've got one at 4. So on average, the cruise is 7.8 days. You're still going on a total of 164 days worth of cruises. Now, how do we back into the correct calculator? This is a sanity check on this. I'm trying to think. So we do 164 days. This is 21. Oh, there. So 21. If we divide the total days by the average length of a cruise, you get 21 total cruises, which here you got 21 total. Okay, so that makes sense. I believe that's the correct number then. Right, this times this plus this times this. 164 days on the cruise. 164 total days, and that was spread across 21 total cruises. So you divide this by 21, and this gets you the weighted average 7.8. Okay. So what you would do is look at this and say, on average, if we go on a cruise during year 1, based on these numbers, then the average length of the cruise is 7.8 days. So you would then figure out, well, how much steak do I need for a 7.8-day cruise? That has to be estimated, and you figure out the cost, and you would put that in here, and you could do that for each food type. So this is going to be dependent on the number of excursions and how long they last. Now my question is going to be, do we need to know the number of days on average that the excursions last for any calculation. And I don't know the answer. We calculate food, we calculated fuel. I think this food, you're going to want some context into what you're putting here. So let's just put average average cruise length in days. And let's say this is 10, 8, what have you. Let's get our formatting in here. So now if we do that, we can calculate for each month total days. This is average distance per cruise. This is average, and then this is total days at sea. Would be this times that. So this is a calculation. We'll give it a light gray. Total days at sea. Now here, obviously, this is not feasible. You can't have average cruise length of 15 and do 3 excursions. So maybe these are smaller ones, 4, maybe 7. Here, on average, if you do, let's say, 13 days, you've got total days at sea 26. Now this day count also needs to match the ticket price. Like there's all these variables need to be somewhat connected. Let's put total distance per month would be average distance per cruise times cruise excursions. Okay, now we'd have to do some math to say, okay, here's in a given month how much revenue I'm collecting divided by how many days total cruise days, total length, average cruise length in days, total length days. And you divide that by the total revenue of tickets for the month, and that'll give you what you're on average charging. And you could do that against the total number of tickets sold, what you're charging on average per ticket per day. Man, this is tough. This is tough. A lot of new logic here, which is good. Just trying to think of the best ways to format this. Okay, we got that. Taxes, we're not worried about that. Okay. Oh wow, so they hire foreign workers and apparently pay them very low wages. Standard card for a crew member like a cleaner or dishwasher requires a mandatory 308 hours per month, 11 hours a day, 7 days a week, for as long as 8 to 10 months with no days off, for the equivalent of $400 to $700 per month. or $1.62 to 2.27 per hour. Holy crap. That's insane. Okay. Let's go back to the model here. So if we're looking at staff, I believe this still works fine. The logic here. All right, so number of excursions, average length, total length in days, distance, total distance. We'll use the miles per gallon calculation, total tickets sold. That'll get us our total ticket revenues. Trying to figure out the best sanity check to show how much are you charging. Well, I guess we could say so you could do the total revenue divided by the total average ticket sold for a given month. That gives you your average ticket price. And then you could divide that by the number of cruises for the month. And remember, this is the tickets sold, average ticket sold per cruise. So if you do 2 in a month, you do 5,000 tickets sold times 2 in their 8 days length. So you could get the total revenue per ticket divided by total. Oh wait, where I lost my train of thought. Take total ticket revenue divided by total tickets sold. So if it was here, it'd be 2. So you'd be total revenue of 2 cruises in a month divided by 10,000 tickets sold, since it's 2. That would give you the average price per ticket. Now, does it make sense to divide that by anything else? Well, I guess we could do total revenue divided by total cruises in the month. That gives you your total revenue per cruise. We could divide the total revenue by the total tickets sold to get your average ticket price. That's fine. Now I think it's important to show on average what are you making per person per or essentially per cruise ticket purchase per month on average, and then what is it costing you per person? And you just divide the total cost by the amount of tickets sold, I guess. So the average cost per ticket, the average revenue per ticket, you get a margin. So that just essentially breaks the entire model down into how much revenue are you making per one person on the ship or one passenger, and how much is it costing you per one passenger based on all of the fuel costs, the staffing costs, food costs, all of that divided by the total passengers, which is this number, times the cruises. Okay, interesting. Very interesting. I think this is good. This makes sense. For today, we got staffing, we got these other costs. Other variable costs or variable costs assumptions. We'll give this a thick bottom. Okay, average miles per gallon. average price, and then food costs, average cost per food item per excursion. So you can do the number of excursions per month times whatever you're going to spend on each of the food costs, and that could change over time. This is nice. Yeah, you can look at, so you look at the cruise, the Endeavor, and say, well, on average, the cruise length is going to be, on average, let's say whatever it is, 10 days, 8 days, 15 days. And over that time, you're going to spend X money on each of these food types. Okay, so I think those are the huge costs, food and labor. Now, other things we'll have to start on tomorrow. So we've got basically all the ticket revenue is down. I think this is pretty good. Um, the average, we're not doing like an occupancy thing. We're just saying on average, how many tickets do you think you're going to sell on each excursion? And you could adjust that over time. And then what's the percentage of each ticket type? Here's all the different ticket types up to 10. So you multiply this times this times whatever percentage for the ticket type. That gives you revenue from that ticket type. And you multiply that by the excursions to get the total revenue of that ticket type for the month. And you just do that same logic here. We'll have some formulas to do all that stuff. I'm just thinking it through in my head right now. Now we use total distance for the miles per gallon. We can do days to figure out. I don't know. I still don't know if we need to use this, but we have this in here just as kind of a sanity check to make sure you're putting in assumptions that make sense. So here, on average, you're out at sea. If an average excursion lasts 20 or 13 days, you do 2 a month, that's 26 days. And you've got some turnover time. So, I mean, maybe you can do 10 for 20, and then it gives you 10 days of turnover, maybe 12 for 6 or 7 days of turnover per month. Now, also, I want to put a note here, add costs to do turnover. And so that might depend on how many excursions you do, and each one will have a total cost to get everybody onboarded, total cost to get everybody off, and like I don't know if that's going to include maybe parking or labor, customs, just anything that we want to tie to the number of excursions taken. And we're going to show you can define a cost of onboard and a cost of offboard, or whatever you call it. I don't know. So that'll be a variable cost to put in, and that'll just be a high level. We'll have to add that one-time cost. So the cruises cost to board everyone and cost to offload everyone times total excursions per month. So every time you do a new excursion, these costs are relevant. And we'll add that we'll put that under the food costs down here. So we got food costs, average miles per gallon. Okay. That's fine. This is fine. Other fixed costs like managers, legal stuff. I'm going to account for that there. We got all our staffing. This is a heavy model. This is definitely a heavy model. Okay. So we're going to add that turnover, and then we also want to add more ancillary revenue streams and related costs. So again, things like casino, spa, what did they say here? They listed a bunch. Alcohol. So alcohol is usually not included in the ticket price. So if you want that, it's extra. So there's a margin there. Casino gambling. Shoot, I don't even know. We'll do some rough estimates there, like average spent, and essentially the spend is going to be the revenue. Spa treatments, art auctions. Now, shore excursions, I think on these we can just put um, the number, what to think. So, like number of excursions per trip or types of excursions, how much you're charging. This is going to be a pretty intense one, and a lot of people do these. These are a bit simpler, like this stuff, but this is going to have to be tied. So don't, let's get this link up here for if I forget the link tomorrow. All right, well, this is how we go about building a financial model. What you're seeing today is mainly just how to think about forecasting revenue for a cruise ship and all the different factors to try to tie in. I'm really happy that all the rest of the model is pretty much done as far as formatting reports, financial statements, cash flow, all of that. So once I finish the revenue and expense, all this other stuff's going to be already built in, which is great. So I don't have to worry about that. I just got to make sure the references are updated. But that gives me a lot of time now to focus on how I want to format the operating assumptions, which is the most important thing. All right. Don't forget to check out more financial models, startup tools, templates in Excel and Google Sheets at smarthelping.com. Like I said, this cruise ship model, when I'm finished, I'll put it in the startups tab category, industry specific startup models. It'll be listed in here under C for cruise ship when it's done. All these are in alphabetical. And you can check out all the financial models on the whole site. You can buy everything I've built for $9.99 or check out. We've got a lot of stuff for membership type businesses, SaaS, PaaS, um, a lot of real estate underwriting tools I've done. These are all the startup models, joint venture tools, waterfall distributions with IRR hurdles, all kinds of stuff. Tools for accountants, inventory tracking, receivable payable tracking, expense tracking, budgeting, all kinds of stuff. HR tools, these are mostly Google Sheets, trackers, personal finance, some sales pipeline and dashboarding here and here, business valuation. And I also do work for 165 an hour if you want customizations. All right, that's all I got for you today. I'm happy to be back, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for more.